Welcome to Invercargill in New Zealand's deep south, home to cycling Southland and a region rich in scenery and character. This is the SBS Bank Tour of Southland, one of the country's longest running sporting events and the most prestigious title in New Zealand cycling. 18 teams will challenge themselves and each other over 7 stages and 850 kilometres across the roads of Southland, facing everything the terrain and weather can throw at them. At the end of the week, the best rider will add his name to the list of past greats. This is the 2018 SBS Bank Tour of Southland. The 2018 SBS Bank Tour began in earnest with the longest single road stage on Monday, covering 170 kilometres from Invercargill to Lumsden. An early 4-man breakaway had grown to a dozen riders by the time the leaders rolled through nightcaps, and they pushed out to a lead approaching 6 minutes. Confusion in the chasing peloton hampered efforts to cut the margin, meaning the day would come down to a 3-man sprint up the main street of Lumsden. Placemakers Matt Zenovich was rewarded for his efforts in shouldering the load in the last 20 kilometres, timing his move perfectly to claim a hometown win, the first time a Southlander had won a stage on tour since he did it himself in 2013. Oliver Martin from WPC South Joyride Apparel second on the stage, and United States rider Kevin Gerkins riding for Kia Motors Ascot Park Hotel third, meaning Matt Zenovich holds a slim 6-second lead over Martin heading into Tuesday's journey to Tiana.
Started off with polka dot jersey and then moved into a yellow one, which is the one that everyone wants, and it's just a massive target on your back. But yeah, so we'll hopefully, I reckon it's almost possible to have a different jersey every day.
Yeah, everyone rode really strong, and James and I had a pretty cushiony ride and behind the other fellas, so yeah, relatively fresh and looking to get amongst it today. I think stay out of trouble, stay warm. It's looking a little bit fresh this morning, and yeah, hopefully we'll all 6 of us will be there and in amongst it at the finish line.
January this year I was involved in a training ride crash where I broke my back, so that was a big setback and a rough start to the year. Had to take 8 weeks off and missed a few events, but yeah, I was lucky enough to still be selected for the Junior Worlds, and yeah, so once I got back from injury, it was just full focus on that, and yeah, that was a pretty cool experience with some of my best mates. We managed to win the world title in the team pursuit, so yeah, it's been a pretty cool year with lots of ups and downs, and yeah, looking forward to having a good week this week at the Tour of Southland.
Well, it's my first time doing it, but I've heard, any stage you can light up. And so yeah, we're just going to stay at the front and try and limit any, risk of losing our contention, and yeah, we'll see. I mean, I've heard there could be crosswinds, which will be quite exciting. I've also heard that the break can last here, so that adds another element to it. So we'll see. But yeah, you got to keep your wits about you all 8 days, and that's what we are trying to do.
So cool conditions here in the Riviera of the South, Riverton, here as the riders head on off. Just 2 defections today, so we're down to 106 of the original 108 starters, but very cool looking, and the riders are very aware of the fact, Doug, as they head towards a Black Mount today, that things are going to turn with the weather.
They're all heading into the unknown a fair bit here today. The stage, if they haven't been in any of the previous editions of the SBS Bank Tour, heads around the southern scenic route towards Tuatapere, very exposed around the coast, and then further on up through to Manapuri and on to Tiana, you can really experience some high winds. You can see here right out of the blocks, it's the rider from yesterday's breakaway, Ethan Batt, wearing the King of the Mountains jersey. He's on the hunt for points already.
Yes, the man from Blenheim is very keen on a lot of these hill climbs, and of course being to the very forefront of the races we've seen in the early stages of this tour. And these hills, of course, they're determined by the length and the steepness will be the amount of points that they actually give away for them. The classification will be determined with the likes of Black Mount and of course the Bluff Hill and Coronet. That's where the big ones count. Here we can see the field is well split up here as the winds have turned as they make their way towards the coastal waters, towards Tuatapere. And already, Doug, in this early stages here, they are splintered all over the roads of Southland.
Yeah, Felix Donnelly here from the Business South team at the back, flick forward to the front. This is where the business is being done, and this is the kind of damage that the rider, the Ethan Batt from the WPC South Joyride Apparel Squad, is inflicting on this field. Huge splintering going on. You can see that this is classic Tour of Southland stuff.
Yes, it's a bit of a shock to the system, I would suggest, to a few of these riders. The last few years, they have been treated to some outstanding weather on the stage. It's not usually the way, but this year it looks like we might be in for what is typical getting around the coastal roads of Southland. And there are the Kia Motors Ascot Park team. Is this the day we will see the likes of Piccoli, Bond, etc. head to the front of the race?
Exactly. As soon as these conditions start cracking up, and you can see there the Kia Motors team, the Placemakers team, all of the big hitters, the Aardvark excavators, they're up the front as well in huge numbers. And there's a couple of issues here. Safety is one of them. They don't want to be caught back. They don't want to be dropped. But this is a huge front group breakaway here that is formed at this point in this stage.
We try and scan across the group, and it's pretty difficult today with a lot of them wearing the jackets, but I saw on the far left the man in the yellow jersey, of course. That would be Zenovic of Invercargill riding for the Placemakers team. The King of the Mountains was in amongst it, as was the Harcourt Sprint Ace. So the classification leaders are trying to keep themselves nice and handy. And speaking of which, here it is with Zenovic and Dylan Kennett, the man that has ridden in the team's pursuit for the New Zealand squad over a number of years, now showing his wares on the road. He's in some pretty good sort of form coming into this tour.
Yeah, this is a real strategic move here, and we saw from the start that Matt Zenovic was quite keen to hang on to that yellow jersey. There's one of the other riders, James Fouche, number 22 from the Creation Signs, Ronald McDonald House, South Island Rico. So there is some very strategic moves going on here early on. These guys are not going to be left behind, and the movers and shakers of this year's SBS Bank Tour are right in this group.
We saw Hamish Bond getting through there, and here is Michael Vink, a man who's experienced the podium a number of times in the tour. He hasn't quite made it to the top of the podium. That will be very much firmly in his sights for this year's tour as they fly down one of the many descents as they head along the coastal roads here towards Tuatapere. Look at that, 70k plus for these riders here as they get themselves into aerodynamic form here. These guys are fair flying, and it's putting some fair damage into the rest of the field.
Back at the chasing group, and the rain is starting to come in. This is really, really tough conditions to race in. You've got the water coming up from the rider in front of you. It's cold, it's miserable, you've got wind chill. The Vet for Farm team here are getting a real baptism of fire into the SBS Bank Tour. Once again, back at the breakaway, things are very coordinated. It's a huge group up the front here, Julian, and it's going to be very interesting to see what the bigger names do as this stage wears on.
Yes, you can see the splits all over the road here as they try to establish themselves off the front. There's Roman Van Uden, the big tall figure in the middle of it there. I think James Fouche in there, the yellow jersey heading away. He's got the blue Placemakers jersey on. He's third from the back. And Aardvark excavators have been very proactive in this. And the man in the orange jacket coming across, as we saw yesterday, is Sam Gaze, the Commonwealth Games mountain bike champion. He's made himself available at the front here. This is looking very serious here as these guys try to establish themselves, but I don't think we're quite that coordinated as the arm goes up from Brad Evans.
I'm impressed with Matt Zenovic's right here in the Placemakers team. He's got the yellow jersey on. Awfully awkward to see today because he's got his jacket on, but he's riding a very, very heady race. He's in the right place. He's not driving it like he was yesterday. He's covering up. He's not letting anyone get away. And Matt Zenovic has obviously got some great form because he is riding an exceptionally good yellow jersey right here.
As they head into the sausage capital of New Zealand, Tuatapere, it'd be interesting to see what Zenovic tries out here. There is time bonuses available. They have the sprints along the road for the Harcourt Sprint Ace, but a few of them actually offer 3-second bonus, and it's Zenovic who's moving forward with Gaze here, eyeing this up, because remember, coming into today, he only had a 6-second advantage. As Van Uden gets out of the seat to start making a bit of a move, Zenovic is keeping himself nice and handy.
he is keeping himself nice and handy, Julian. And in his own words, Matt Zinovich has a real struggle to contain himself. I've been impressed with his ride here so far in this stage. This is a real bonus for him. He's going to take another 3 seconds to put himself out to 9 seconds clear in the yellow jersey. He needs to tuck in now, get back in that group. But I believe Matt Zinovich has probably got a bit more form in this race than some of these other guys may realise.
And let's not forget, of course, and that he's also well and truly up there when it comes to the hardcourt sprint ace. So not only does he get the time bonus for the yellow, but he continues with the battle for that green jersey. He was second place coming into the stage. As we look to the chasers here, who are looking a bit dejected in these cool conditions. Of course, Alex Heaney there in the PowerNet jersey, the man that experienced the yellow jersey after day one when they took out the time trial. Van Uden here, he's the man that had his birthday yesterday, and more importantly, the defending champion Doug. The first time we've seen him looking very relaxed here in these cool conditions as they head across, in comparison to the man who's been putting a lot of effort in the yellow jersey, Zinovich.
Yeah, that's an interesting shot, Julian. That is the first time I've seen James Piccoli from the Kia Motors team, and James Piccoli's riding, well within himself for the looks of things, but I believe Matt Zinovich has probably got the form of this year's race out of all of these top GC place riders. How he goes today is going to affect how he climbs Coronet Peak tomorrow. He'll be thinking about that as well, and he'll be just wanting to cover up a bit more as they go through towards this Black Mount climb, because that'll be a pivotal point in this year's stage 2.
This first half of the race has seen this happen all the way through, where we can just see the next group up the road. They'll be frustrated, these guys here. They can see them in the distance there. They're wanting to shut this down. They want to be part of the lead here coming into the final into Tiana. But 3 guys who aren't going to wait around to decide, see what happens between those 2 bunches, is these guys who've gone off the front. The 2015 champion, Brad Evans of Dunedin.
Yeah, it's fascinating, Julian, seeing these chaps that have ridden this race in previous editions and won, all coming into this race with varying degrees of form. It's very hard to get a gauge on just exactly where they are. That's one of the aardvark riders that we've seen in the past, Morgan Smith. He's a very, very strong rider and featured quite strongly a couple of years ago in the SBS Bank Tour. But there's some big calibre here, and the exciting part about this year's edition of this race is that there's not one rider that you can put your finger on and say that is where it's going to be. There's so many riders could win this year.
A great shot as we look back. It looks like those 2 bunches have joined themselves back up here. Look at the aardvark colours back there, the black and yellow. The Kia Motors Ascot Park team there with Piccoli and Bond and Co at the front of it there, just keeping things under control. And the man in yellow with Dylan Kennett tucked in with him from the Placemakers team. They're keeping a tabs on the 3 that have just snuck off the front there. They're getting out to about 25 odd seconds. It'll be interesting if these guys here decide they might just let them sneak off the front.
Yeah, with 60 kilometres to go, there's still a lot of work ahead of these guys, and you can see some of them now starting to change. There's James Piccoli getting a bit of a jacket on, and the weather conditions are different to last year, and how they adapt to them is really, really going to have a big bearing on their energy levels and how much it takes to get through each of these stages. So wait and see.
See, we're now a fair way through this particular stage, 150 kilometres, as we see the leading 3 riders now make their way up towards the Black Mount Hill. It's quite a struggle, this particular hill, the way it zigzags its way up into the top of it after being on a relatively flat stage earlier on, and that's here on those winds, all of a sudden to hit into this. And it's Hubbard of Placemakers who's been pretty prominent here today, who's looking quite comfortable with Morgan Smith tucked in behind him and Brad Evans being distanced a wee bit here as they make their way up the hill.
There's certainly some strength in this front group. Thomas Hubbard has been around for quite a while and has ridden this race on a number of occasions himself. Morgan Smith, as we discussed earlier on, he is a very, very handy bike rider himself. So they'll be wanting to tempo up this climb. It's got a bit of a flat portion towards the top, and then it zigzags a wee bit and does a big right-hander and gets quite steep as you go over. But from the top of this, it's very, very fast. So whether these chaps will regroup and then decide to ride down the other side together or not will be an interesting decision that they're all going to have to make.
It'd be fair to say with many of the stages, there's stages within the stages. As we see the chasers here riding quite relaxed here at the moment. They feel they've got them under control. They're just doing it at a nice steady rate here. Here's Hamish Bond coming up onto the outside. We've got Adair Craik Accountants team in the mix. There's the orange jacket there of Sam Gaze for the PowerNet team. So a number of the teams represented, and of course Michael Vink, a man who's certainly on people's lips here as a potential winner of the overall of this tour, comfortably leading them up the Black Mounts Hill here as they head towards the leading 3 riders. So the trio here look like they're starting to come back together after a big descent of some 90 odd k an hour flying down that other side, Doug, as Morgan Smith comes up towards the man Hubbard who took out the hill climb.
Yeah, here Brad Evans looks like he's struggling a wee bit coming off the other side of that climb, and they're going to have to really regroup quite quickly because there's a considerable number of chasers in that chasing group behind them. So it's game on here. It is quite quick off the base of this Black Mount climb all the way through to Manapuri, but you get to Manapuri and you've still got about 20 k's to go. So these guys will be having to really knuckle down and do some work and work together in order to stay away at this stage.
Yes, as I suggested before, just to clarify, the stages within the stages, this is a whole different part of the race here. They've managed to knock out the hill here, and as you said, the winds can come up through here as well and make life very difficult, and the legs are still trying to recover a wee bit after that nasty climb, as we see a rider coming across from the chasing group. Got a distinctive style as he rolls onto the seat. I think that might be Sunday that's coming across. Is it rider 154 for the Adair Craik Accountants team, a team that's been involved in the tour for the last few years, great supporters of it, and he's going to make it relatively look easy as he comes across the leading 3.
Yeah, that is a very good ride to get across in such quick time. Obviously had to get past the referee vehicles and things, which can give you a wee bit of a boost. You've got a bit of a pacemake there to get on the back, but 4 riders in a breakaway beats 3. This is a very welcome addition to this front group at this stage in the race, Julian.
I think the other thing, though, for that trio, they'll see this man, they'll be starting to get a little bit nervous, thinking, gosh, if he can get across like that there, how close are these boys here? They'll be trying to get the time checks from the motorbikes. These guys all looking fairly relaxed because they've got the advantage of those lights flashing away for the various vehicles. And as we see here, Doug, we have gone quickly from 4 riders down to 2, and it's Smith and Sunday.
Yep, we're back to 2, and it looks like Brad Evans from the WPC South Joyride Apparel, one of the former winners of this stage race, has chucked in the towel. That's an interesting move. It could be that he was called back, but it may be that his form just isn't perhaps as it was in previous years. And Thomas Hubbard, the boy that climbed the Black Mount climb from the Placemaker squad. So this is a tough stage. It is a long stage, and the chasing group here have got a 42-second gap to the front leaders. It'll be interesting, Julian, to see whether this stays away.
A fantastic shot as you see the snow up on the mountains here. It is very cool conditions, and that's played havoc, no doubt, with many of the riders right from the get-go of today's stage here for many of them. And these are the guys who have adjusted the best. We see the pink jersey sitting in there. Connor Brown from Auckland as he rolls through in about 4th place, and just up in front of him was Alex Heaney, the man who was in the yellow on day 1. So some of the big hitters, some of the strong contenders still feel they've got this under control.
Yeah, back to the duo at the front. That's Morgan Smith from the Aardvark Excavators squad, and number 154, that is the rider Ben Sunday from Auckland, riding for the Adair, Blake Sunday, riding for the Adair Craik Accountants team. They've got a long way to go still, and their legs will be tired, but the beauty of this stage, round between Manapuri and Tiana, road twists a bit, and sometimes you can hide the way the road is, and there's a lot of trees and things, so out of sight can be out of mind. These guys will be really desperate to stay away.
Yes, out of the 2 of them, of course, it's Morgan Smith, who has ticked off quite a few tours over the years now. He came to it relatively new to the multi-stage racing, as we see a very interesting shot here. The tour leader pounding a massive gear on the front. Now this is interesting. Have the other teams forced him to be there, or has he decided he's got to be there for a certain reason when he's got, there we go, Dylan Kennett sitting further back there, who we know has got an outstanding sprint on him here. He's already won the bunch sprint in the last couple of days here. So has the yellow jersey decided, well, look, you guys have been helping me out, maybe it's time I give you a bit of an effort as well.
He is certainly a powerhouse, smashing a big gear for it early on in the the stage of this overall race. There's the group now at the front. You can see back to the chasing group. Matthew Zenovich may be trying to drag this back for his sprinter in this team, Dylan Kennett, but it's Morgan Smith from the Aardvark Excavators squad in that distinctive bumblebee type jersey, Julian. He has said enough's enough. I'm going to have a crack at this on my own, and if it's going to be, it's up to me.
He's certainly got some sting in his tail here. The man Morgan Smith, who's tried numerous times over the years to get himself at the front of the race and has been quite successful doing so. Of course, he's been in the green jersey in the past and he's come close to some of these stage victories here. Is he going to be able to do enough? It's a fair way still to the finish here and not the easiest of conditions to do it in.
Absolutely, we're coming into the business end of things. There's the lake, Te Anau on the rider's left. Matthew Zenovich is still trying to draw things back. He's really hoping that Morgan Smith from the Aardvark Excavators team's going to pop and come back and lead it out for Dylan Kennett. But Michael Vink is also in there. Here's Morgan Smith, the leader on this road and looking like a stage winner, but he is really digging deep now. His head's rolling, Julian, and you can see he's got the stage win in his sights.
Oh, he's giving it absolute death as he comes around into the sweeping bend, the final bend into the straight here into Te Anau. And as you can see on the footage here, the chasing pack are not too far away. He's got a bit of a speed hump to come over, quite a unique sort of a finish here. Oh, Doug, they're coming, they're flying here. What has he got left in the legs here? Morgan Smith, can he hold on for the victory here? This guy has been out for the majority of the day. His team has put a lot of effort in. We saw right from the very start of today's stage here. Has he done enough today to secure himself what is considered one of the big stages of the tour? 150 kilometres here in the Distinction Hotels into Te Anau. Has the man in the bumblebee colours, as we've said here for the Aardvark Excavators, done enough as he comes into picturesque Te Anau?
Yeah, Morgan Smith is just hanging on and he's gritting his teeth. You can see here the peloton are breathing down his neck, and it looks like it's going to be a very, very close finish here into Te Anau. Morgan Smith is hanging on, Julian. Both hands off the bars, both hands up. He's stoked. And Dylan Kennett wins the bunch sprint to take second place.
Southlander Matt Zenovich continues to hold on to the yellow jersey, adding a further 3 seconds to his advantage over Oliver Martin and the American Kevin Gherkins, with Morgan Smith, the stage winner, moving up into 4th place. Zenovich continues also now to move into another jersey, this time in the Harcourt Sprint Ace with 25 points over Jones and Smith. While the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains, Ethan Batt, continues to pick up the points early in the stage to lead with 25 points. Young Aucklander Connor Brown continues to lead by just a mere 3 seconds in the Henderson Construction Limited under 23. The experience of Paul Odland continues to show here in the Stonewind Home silver jersey, leading it from 18 seconds over Hayden and Nichols. While Morgan Smith takes out the stage, also awarded the most combative after being off the front for the majority of the day. WPC South Joyride Apparel hold a slender 3-second lead over Placemakers, followed by Kia Motors Ascot Park Hotel at 15 seconds in the Wednesday Cycles team classification.
When you put your hands together, they are the leaders in the team classification. Stage victory here, 148k of Morgan Smith.
We started the day today looking at the weather forecast as our main priority. So yeah, we all felt good as a team, and we decided on a plan together as a unit, and we kind of pulled it off. We lost a couple of guys early, but it all worked out in the end. When everyone's got the same idea, when the wind goes sideways, you've kind of got to be on the ball with what's happening. So I'd call it a hard day in the office.
Follow the action from this historic race with live race updates, full results and pictures at www.tourofsouthland.com.